Okay, section 2, Holy Roman Empire and the Church. The focus question is, how did the explosive conflicts between monarchs and popes affect the balance of power in Europe? And one way to think about power is it's a bit like mass or matter, I guess, that you can't really create it or destroy it. Um, and it's not a perfect analogy, but what usually ends up happening is if one group or person gains in power, it seems just natural that another group or person loses in power. And so the amount of power doesn't really change. It's just who has it, who has more, who has less. That's just one way to think about it. Okay, so for the first objective, understand why Holy Roman emperors were epic failures at nation building. And I kind of threw that epic failure part in there. But to give you an idea, because of the actions of the Holy Roman emperors, Germany will not become a unified nation state for a good 600 years after France and Spain and England do. So all of these things are going to add up and really cause problems for Germany later. So to start with, we're going to look at Otto the First. Otto the First helps the Pope out, and because of his good deed, the Pope crowns him holy, and it's holy because crowned by the Pope, Roman, because both the Pope, but more so Otto, believes that they are heirs to the emperors of ancient Rome. And so that's where we get this Holy Roman Empire. And the Holy Roman Emperor is because the Pope plays a part in naming who becomes the emperor, and because they are tying themselves to the past glories of ancient Rome, that's how all of this happens. Now, if we look at the Holy Roman Empire, one of the things you should notice is there's an awful lot of divisions or states within the Holy Roman Empire, and those are the major ones. Each of those major ones would have some smaller ones within it. So even though it is geographically united, if you look, it fits in this nice geographic place. It's between France and what's going to be Russia and Poland and those types of things. The problem is it's culturally very diverse. I mean, we're talking northern Germany all the way down into Italy. We're talking French regions all the way over to more Central European regions. Germany is just a very unique and diverse place. So even though it may be geographically unified, culturally it's not even close to being a unified kingdom. So when you look at the Holy Roman Emperor, he claims authority over a huge chunk of territory, and that's going to be one of his problems. The real rulers were the vassals in these lands. Each individual region had a ruler who was probably more powerful than the actual emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. Another thing is the emperors never really had control over these vassals. They just aren't able to unify them or get them under their thumb like the kings of England and France were. And then another problem is going to be all these confrontations that the Holy Roman Emperor has with the church. So part of the problem is when the emperor is crowned by the Pope likes to think that they can intervene whenever they want into the affairs of the Holy Roman Empire. And so that's going to cause lots of conflicts between the emperors and the popes and church officials. One of these conflicts is the one between Pope Gregory and Emperor Henry. Henry versus Gregory. So Gregory is a reforming pope. He wants to make changes that are going to strengthen the power of the church. And he wants to cut ties between the church and secular rulers, so these worldly emperors. He wants to pull the two apart. The real problem, as Gregory sees it, is lay investiture. Lay investiture is the practice of non-church people, such as kings and rulers, giving church positions to individuals. And for Pope Gregory, this is a real problem because rather than be loyal to the Pope, those church officials are more loyal to the king or the Lord who gave them their position. Henry doesn't like this at all because the bishops are holding lands that are royal fiefs. They're living on his land. So he sees that as they are his vassals. Because they're his vassals, he should have control over who gets it. And so this mingling of religion into feudalism is causing the real problem here. So as a result of all this, Gregory excommunicates Henry and is going to appoint a new emperor. Because of the excommunication and the interdict, the people are on the verge of a revolt, and that forces Emperor Henry to repent. And so he has to go and beg for the forgiveness of Pope Gregory, which Henry does. And Pope Gregory, being a good church person, forgives him, and then Henry extracts retribution on all those people who attempted to revolt against him. Eventually, the emperor and the pope reach an agreement at the Concordat of Arms, where the church is the sole authority over church offices, but the emperor still retains the ability to give away the land. So the church appoints the church officers, but the emperor still has control over these lands. Summarize the struggle to control Italy. Frederick Barbarossa, also known as Redbeard, dreams of building a huge empire and returning to the past glories of ancient Rome. He fights endless wars with the wealthy Italian city-states, which he wants to take control over because of the trade. The Italian city-states join forces with the Pope in Rome, and there gets to be a whole big mess when Frederick's son marries an Italian heiress. And what that does is that drags him even further into these Italian political events. The problem Frederick runs into is he always has to go back down into Italy to deal with some kind of problem. Every time he leaves, then all of these vassals and lords in the Holy Roman Empire cause all kinds of problems, and so then he has to go from Italy back into Germany to put out all the problems that took place while he was gone, and then other problems pop up in Italy, and he has to go back down into Italy, and he goes back and forth. And because he spends all this time and energy, and future emperors are going to do the same thing, they never concentrate on unifying Germany or Italy, and both of these regions are going to be in constant upheaval. And France and Spain are going to battle over control for the next 200 years over this region as well. It's just a messy period of time, and it's a really messy region. If we look at Pope Innocent III, he clashes with almost all the major rulers in Europe. He also is going to wipe out heretical ideas. The section briefly mentions the Albigenese Crusade, which is designed to wipe out this whole group of people that have heretical ideas. What they believe is they believe that all worldly matter is evil and only the spiritual world is holy. And that causes a problem for the Christian church when you look at the divinity of Jesus. So this group denies the divinity of Jesus, and that's what causes really the problem. So the Pope is going to wipe these people off the face of the earth, which he pretty much is able to do. He's able to extend power, and his political power grows. The problem is this: he sows the seeds for problems for future popes, because the times change, but popes didn't. And what the popes don't realize is, as France and England are growing in power, and as people are starting to identify themselves as being English or French, that also takes away the allure and the power of the Christian church. So even though Pope Innocent III reaches the height of political power, it comes at a pretty high cost. And from that period forward, it's just going to gradually decline.